80 on Monday, with overnight lows in the mid-40s to the mid-50s. KSJE is proud to support the San Juan Symphony, celebrating their 34th season called Elegance and Intensity. The San Juan Symphony Concert's Absolute Refinement are coming up September 28th and 29th in Durango and Farmington, featuring the music of Mozart, Prokofiev, and Mendelssohn. Find out more about the San Juan Symphony online at sanjuansymphony.org. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, which is officially baby-friendly. This evidence-based initiative is designed to support mother-baby bonding and optimal infant feeding practices by upholding the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. San Juan Regional Medical Center, officially baby-friendly, and serving the Four Corners since 1910. Joining me in our visual radio studio to talk a little bit about the One Book, One Community program this fall, Danielle Sullivan is here, the coordinator of One Book, One Community here at San Juan College. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
and
you.
This is your third year of coordinating this project, correct?
It is, yes.
But you have the help of a committee, right?
Yes, a growing committee. We have people from all across campus and the community, several community members and area high school members who participate in the committee as well.
That's wonderful. And you were telling me that you have the largest kind of collaboration ever this year for this program. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. We have 3 area high schools. So Navajo Prep is a new school that's participating this year. In the past, we have also collaborated with Farmington High School, and then we've had a long collaboration with Piedra Vista. So all 3 of those schools are working with us, and their students read the book as part of their summer reading program. So
okay.
We've had several thousand students in the community, both high school and college students, who've read this book or are reading it.
Okay, and we'll talk about the book in just a moment. And then to bring folks up to speed, if they're not familiar with the whole concept of One Book, One Community, it literally is getting one book and getting the community to read this book and then discuss all the issues that the book brings up. Isn't that true?
Yes, that's right. So this can be referred to by a variety of names. On campuses, it's generally referred to as a campus reading program or a college campus read, and that's exactly what this is. And then we plan a variety of events. We try to reach a variety of people through our event planning to help them make connections and come together with this book.
Got you. And, of course, we have to give kudos, I think, to our one and only Tracy Hales-Vass, who started that program here, didn't she?
Yes, absolutely. And I was on that committee when it was initially conceived, and I loved working with Tracy and seeing her great work, and I was really honored that I got to participate in her legacy by carrying on the project.
How cool to keep it going, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I imagine there's so many good books out there that would be great to use for this program. It must be hard to choose just one each year, is it? Or how does the committee find it?
It's not as difficult as it might sound, in that often we have a few criteria. So one is that we try to vary. So, for example, this year's book is a form of science fiction, so we wouldn't pick another science fiction next year.
Right.
So we're looking at that. We're trying to bring in different perspectives. So we sort of whittle down what we're looking for before we even start our search. And then
so that helps make it narrow, I suppose, and
Absolutely.
eliminate some of the other titles that you might consider.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And then the other criteria are, of course, budget is always a limit.
Right.
So we have a budget. And then we're really looking at books that will connect students and community members and have them come together. So we want to see books that have a lot of interesting themes or that we see that we can do a lot with.
Right.
So that also further narrows it down.
I see. Okay. Well, see, I thought it was harder than it maybe is.
Right.
So, but I imagine there's
it
some
takes time.
spirited conversations in your committee meetings as you're selecting or choosing the selection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes it can actually be difficult to find a book. So it's actually sort of the opposite problem in that we're trying to find just the right book, and that can be challenging. But we all work together, and we have a few voracious readers on our
Right.
committee who are so knowledgeable and helpful in making these selections. That is not my strong suit, interestingly. I'm good at organizing and coming up with event ideas
Sure.
and implementing them, so I really rely heavily on them.
But you must have a great committee to work with.
Yeah,
To be able to come up
absolutely.
with these great titles that we feature every year for this program. And this year, it seems to me like your committee's on the cutting edge a little bit, because this author is in high demand, as I am learning, and with her book, it's really I think taking off. And I don't know if it was taking off as much when you were still first discussing this, maybe 6 months ago or more.
Right. So actually, we selected this book over a year ago.
Is it that far in
And
advance? I wasn't sure.
It's not always, but what happened was we were vetting potential types of books, and a broker that
Yeah.
we use sent us a list of authors that might fit within our budget, and this author was on there. And one of our committee members, Eric Bateman, saw her name, and he's kind of our sci-fi geek
Right.
on the committee.
Proudly.
Yes, the proud sci-fi geek, and so helpful to us. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe her name is on there for $5,000. This woman's about to explode in fame. I mean, she's winning awards. Let's get her right now." So actually, that was our selection process. There was,
Okay.
oh wow, we better
There you go.
move on this.
Right.
And so we all did. And since then, several of her books have exploded. For example, Who Fears Death, one of her apocalyptic novels that's set in Africa, has been picked up by the HBO creators of Game of Thrones, and it's in the process of being made into a miniseries.
Oh my goodness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she additionally writes a lot for the Black Panther comics, and then Black Panther, of course, has exploded. So
Right.
she's an international celebrity, and we're really fortunate to have her on campus.
Right, I can hear our radio audience going, "Who is it?" You haven't said who it is yet, but our TV audience and video audience knows we're showing you the cover of the book. But this is Nnedi Okorafor. Is that how you pronounce
Yes,
her last?
Okorafor.
Okorafor. I left out a syllable, and so she is really in demand, and so this is her book, and she's got I think a series. This is Binti, correct?
Yes, so we're using on campus the first part of a trilogy.
Right.
And the premise of Binti, and this was one of the appeals of this, is that this is a young woman. She's college age, and she's a STEM, science and technology genius, who's been offered a spot at an elite school on a different planet. However, her people frown upon leaving the culture of her tribe, and this is set in a futuristic Africa with the Himba tribe, which is a real tribe that's extant.
Okay.
And so this dilemma of, do I leave to go and take this opportunity, or do I stay with my people and honor the cultural traditions? And we felt like that alone would resonate tremendously with many of our students who face a similar dilemma when coming to college.
Right. I can see so, and I can see now why it was such a popular selection, right? To a no-brainer almost to select this book.
Exactly, and especially with a lot of our students who live on the reservation, we recognize that there's a lot of research that demonstrates that that's an issue or a concern for many of the students. So we thought that would be a really interesting connection, and that's one of the reasons Navajo Prep, because that's literally
Yeah.
what their students are doing, is leaving home to attend
Right.
school.
And they're living in dormitories and things like that, and
right.
going to school. So it's that
Right.
type of situation. Very interesting. And so so obviously this book has gotten a lot of notice, both here in the area because it's the selection, but as we mentioned now, I think a lot of other folks are picking up on it and picking up on Nnedi as a great author and some of her other stories as well.
That's right. So she's won numerous awards, and she's credited, interestingly, she's credited with starting this movement called Afrofuturism, and I'll tie that back to the Black Panther. So
Okay.
when we think of Afrofuturism, most people are familiar with that film or those comics, the premise being, what would happen if slavery or colonialism had never occurred in Africa? Where would these people be now? And so if it's set in the future, what does that look like? And she's credited in many ways with starting this genre of writing, or being one of the seminal writers
Right.
in it. However, she herself does not identify as an Afrofuturist, so that's a really interesting contradiction. She prefers to identify herself as a writer of African stories, period.
Okay.
And yes, there are science fiction and magical realism and fantasy elements in her story, but she wants to see herself as a tribal writer.
Interesting. Well, very interesting. And so you've got, as you mentioned, you and your committee had planned a number of events to commemorate this selection and to kind of celebrate the themes that this book represents and explore and delve into a few more of the things that this book represents as well. Some of the events have already taken place here on campus, but there are still a few that have yet to take place, including an author visit, which we're very excited about to have her coming to Farmington, New Mexico.
Yes, absolutely. So some of the events that we've already done we had a pastor from Myanmar come to our campus a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the Rohingya crisis, the ethnic conflicts in Myanmar that he helps mitigate through peacekeeping. And that was a wonderful connection to what this book is about, because after she leaves to go to school, she encounters some intertribal, interplanetary conflict, and she's seen as a peacekeeper and a mediator. So we thought that was a really wonderful tie. Binti is also the character. It's the name of the book is
the main character, right? That we're
character.
talking about this.
Yes.
This female potential college student, I guess, right?
Yes,
right.
She's a STEM genius, and so we've had a couple of math events as well to tie that in, and that was one of the appeals of the book.
Nice.
But our upcoming events, so we do have another one with the with math, and that's the fun with fractals. And
I'll take your word for it, Danielle Sullivan.
Well,
that fractals can be fun, but okay.
We have a great presenter, Dr. Alicia O'Brien, who's assistant professor of math here, will be
that can make the difference.
Presenting.
I think you've got a good presenter. Yes,
ma'am. And so she's going to explain what fractals are
right.
through paper folding, and has a really fun activity, and we're really excited about that.
Nice. That's October 2nd, 1 to 2. Here at San Juan College in room 1927, for those of you that aren't watching the video, but that's when that's coming up.
Yes, that's correct. And then another event that ties back to the theme I was initially discussing is this Leaving Home event. And we're doing a collaboration between One Book and the Native American Center and our First Year Experience and the Jalencia Latina Center and our student activities, which is now the
student engagement,
right?
Campus Life
and Campus Life. Yes, so we're all collaborating to do this event that lasts for a couple of days about leaving home and finding support and the challenges that people encounter. And one part of that is going to be a global studies presentation of past trips that they've done, and then talking about upcoming trips as well, because that ties to this whole concept of leaving home and the benefits of doing that, but also the challenges as well.
Right. And we know here at San Juan College that we have a lot of our students who are maybe first-year college students, the first time ever in their families that they had gone off to college. And so this is a really big accomplishment for a lot of these students that we have and see here.
And finding the support when you're making those kinds of decisions, and then being aware of resources, and also just discussing openly some of the challenges of doing that is really important. Sure,
especially, and then talking about maybe the different cultural things and all the other things that go along with it, which go back to this book too.
Exactly.
So that's interesting, and that's coming up October 9th and 10th. Between 11:30 and 1:30, and you've got kind of an open mic part of that too, to folks can tell their stories and things like that.
Exactly, and then we'll be doing like a collaborative art project where students are able to write and paint and things like that as well.
Very cool. Well, that's coming up as well, and then the author will be here on October 22nd.
Yes, the big event.
That's the big one, right?
Absolutely. So Nettie will be here, and she does go by her first name.
Okay.
So she'll be here for a meet and greet from 5 to 6 p.m. and we're having a children's table. So she wrote a children's book called The Chicken in the Kitchen. And one of our reference librarians on campus, Danielle Burbank, came to me and discussed this book. Her daughter's an elementary student. She said that she really loved this book because of some of the ties that she saw between the tribal aspects of this book, because it's set in Africa, with her own culture as a Navajo. And so she's promoting that in elementary schools. And actually, earlier this past month in September, we did an event, a service learning event on youth literacy that incorporated the chicken in the kitchen. So we're having a special children's table at the author meet and greet so that children have the opportunity to get their book signed by Nettie as well. And then, of course, there'll be adult time for that meet and greet as well.
Okay.
And
Very
then
good.
her lectures at 7 p.m., and that will be followed by a book signing. And this is taking place in the Henderson Fine Arts Room Theater.
The theater, the performance hall, right?
Yes.
And again, October 22nd from 5 to 9 p.m., basically, with the meet and greets and then the presentation.
Right. And the presentation itself is from probably about 7 until 8, because I recognize not everybody can make a 4-hour commitment to this.
Right,
So,
right.
And then the table lasts from 5 to 6, and we intentionally set that a little bit earlier so that families with children could still get home and have their evening.
Right, which is perfect. And again, with this author being so hot right now, I mean, it seems like she is really in demand. And I know you and I have been trying to schedule things and talking with her and knowing that she's flying here and going there and committed to this and committed to that.
Exactly.
Her time is very valuable, so it's great that she's coming here to speak with us.
Yes, it sure is.
So-
We're really excited to meet her and learn from her perspectives.
Right. And I'd imagine and hope that she's maybe excited to come here and kind of see the Native American culture and some of these other things that her books kind of touch on a little bit.
Yes, I sure hope so. I mean, that was part of the intention. We really, are aware that approximately 30% of our campus population is Native American, and so this tribal connection, even though they're from different continents, is really important. And this examination of Indigenous people and Indigenous power was definitely something that we felt was important in the book.
Right, right. My guest this morning, Danielle Sullivan, is here. She is the coordinator of the One Book, One Community program here at San Juan College, which of course has grown to include students from other high schools and other areas here in the community. And the book that we are talking about is Binti, and of course it is written by author Nettie oh goodness, Danielle, help me. Okafor. I don't know why I keep messing that up, but I'm going to be practicing until I get it right. But anyways, it's great to have you here. There's a couple other events we want to talk about too that are happening with One Book, One Community, and the next one would be some creative writing.
Yeah, so our campus creative writing director, Travis Wade, will be doing a creative writing workshop that involves creating science fiction characters and settings.
Okay.
And we think that will be a lot of fun. So when we do events, we try to do some blends of like hands-on things and lectures, and so that our events are reaching a variety of people and interests.
Right. And do these come from your committee as well, or do you kind of send the word out to the campus community for ideas on what types of events they'd like to see in connection with the book selection each time?
So a combination of both.
Okay.
Now, Travis is on our committee. It's a natural fit for him as creative writing director. But as a committee, we brainstorm ideas and we're trying to reach out into the community.
Gotcha.
And take advantage of all of our resources, both on campus and in the community.
Right, which makes a lot of sense. But I know Travis is a great resource, so it's great that you have him kind of built in to your committee. So that, along with the other committee members as well. And then we want to talk a little bit about an event in November, a Himba event. Help me understand what that's all about.
Yeah, and I can see why the explanation, just Himba event, might be somewhat confusing.
It got my attention. Yeah.
So the Himba tribe is in Africa, and Dr. Andrea Cooper is a professor of anthropology, has studied many tribal people. She has not studied the Himba. She is studying the Himba to prepare for this lecture, and she and possibly some of her students are going to do a presentation on the tribe and some of the tribal customs. And the next semester we'll be using some films that were documentaries that the Himba people themselves created, and they're really fascinating because often we have an ethnocentric view when we're doing anthropology of another culture looking in on the other one. So it's interesting to have a culture prepare something from within
Right.
about their own culture. So we'll be hitting the Himba people twice in this year.
Okay, very interesting. But that's happening on November 19th.
Yes.
Looks like an afternoon event, 2:30 to 3:30 in the Suns Room, which is down near the cafeteria here at San Juan College.
Yes, that's right.
And that's where folks can go check that out. But very interesting. And again, I know we often think about Africa, but maybe not think about the different tribes of Africa and the different countries and the way that it was kind of divided up throughout history, and the Europeans and the others that were all involved in the history of this gigantic continent and all these people and how they're living today even.
Well, exactly, and the description of the Himba event, alludes to two countries, Namibia and Angola, and then Nettie herself, her parents were immigrants from Nigeria. So this is something that's important. We felt as well. Many people think of Africa as a country,
right? Yeah,
and of course it's a continent with several countries in it. So being able to examine the diversity within Africa
and several tribes in those countries too,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is really important. And I want to point out one other event that we haven't advertised yet because we're waiting to pinpoint a date, but we're really, really excited about it.
This sounds like breaking news.
It is breaking news.
I love breaking news on the program. What's coming up?
So David Mayu, who runs our planetarium here on campus, is constructing an astrolabe right now. And an astrolabe is something that Binti used to communicate and travel.
Okay.
I don't know much about astrolabes. I'll be honest about that. In fact, when David Mayu contacted me and said, I'm going to construct one, I said, I didn't even know that was a real thing. I thought it was made up for this book.
Uh-huh.
But he's assured me it is a real thing.
Okay.
And so he's working on a planetarium show and the construction of this 3D astrolabe. And once it's done, we'll be announcing that and planning that event.
And there'll be a show then, a planetarium show about this, right?
We believe so. So
okay.
It's under works, but I do want to put that out there because we're very excited about his participation with this and think it's just a wonderful opportunity.
What a way to bring that into the celebration and the programs that you already have. So that's great. So as we say in radio, stay tuned, everybody, for more details about this event.
Yes.
That will be coming up. You think it'll happen between now and December, or maybe a spring event?
No, it's a fall event.
Okay. All right. And then now this is only the fall events that we've been talking about, but there are things planned for the spring a little bit too, aren't there?
Yes. So we don't have exact dates in mind yet, but we're I alluded to returning to the Himba event, and we're looking at a variety of activities. So we don't know exactly how these will pan out because we have to plan, of course, and approach people. But we're looking at so earlier this month, Eric Bateman did a presentation on Binti as science fiction. We're going to do a redo of that because it's a really wonderful lecture that contextualizes the novel in a larger genre.
Right.
So he'll be repeating that. And so we know that for sure. And then we're still examining possibilities. One thing that we're talking about is doing an art show of Binti-inspired art. So right now we know that one of our graphic design classes is making posters that are inspired by Binti, and then several area high schools are also incorporating Binti into their art classes, so we'd like to have an art show.
Gotcha.
And
cool.
other events are in the works.
So again, stay tuned, everybody. We'll hear more about those as we get closer, I'm sure. And you mentioned that this is the book that you selected was part of a trilogy, and so there is more to the story, basically, once you've read this first book, correct?
Yes. So in this novel, I mentioned that she leaves home, and then she encounters many obstacles. One is, this interplanetary conflict where she has to come in and act as a mediator, and this is extreme conflict.
Right.
And we thought that was interesting. We liked this idea of a mediator and peaceful resolution to conflict because, all too often we don't have peaceful resolution, and we wanted to explore that.
Right.
So
pay attention, global community.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And subsequent the subsequent novels explore her life on the campus. So she actually, in this novella, she never actually gets all the way to campus.
I see.
It's about getting there.
Right.
And then the subsequent ones explore her time there.
Okay.
But she continues her work as a peacekeeper. and there is an extensive amount of math that gets woven into the subsequent novels too, algebraic equations especially.
Interesting, right.
Yes.
And so for folks who are maybe just now discovering this story and this author, there is more than to the storyline to pick up with the other two books.
Absolutely, and several area books stores are carrying, and we know that I don't.
Right.
Can I name
Of course,
it? Yeah.
yes, you can. Amy's Bookcase.
Amy's Bookcase, and
right. Which one?
the media.
The other store on 20th Street, is that the one you're
Yes.
thinking of? Which is, oh dear, I'm forgetting it too, but I'll remember it. So, used to be Hastings, and now it's something else.
Right.
But we all,
Media,
I think,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. So they're
I'm going to have to think about it. But yes.
They're carrying that, and then
Okay.
of course our bookstore.
The bookstore
on
here at San Juan
campus,
College.
The campus bookstore is carrying
Right.
them too.
Right. Entertain Mart.
Entertain
is
Mart.
the store that we're
Yes.
talking about that I finally got the gray matter to connect. So that's the one we're talking about as well. But it's certainly a book in high demand. I imagine once you select a book like this, I mean, that's a big deal, right? Because now all of a sudden all these schools that we're talking about are buying copies. The college is buying copies, and people are buying or at least getting them out of the library and reading them.
Yes, that's exactly right. And actually, because it becomes in such high demand in our community, it gives us quite a bit of power when we're negotiating with authors, because we're
Sure.
able to guarantee sales of several thousand copies of a book, which
Right.
is not typical in many situations when we're when people are bringing an author to an area. They can't guarantee book sales the way that we can.
Right.
So that's partially why we're able to have brought some great authors to campus, because of this collaboration.
Which is a great opportunity. So again, I remind folks that this author is really on the cutting edge of popularity and will be in, I think, high demand in the months and years to come. And so San Juan College is very grateful and lucky to get her, I think, at this point in time before she just kind of explodes. And I think we see that already.
Yes. I mean, I think her speaking fee, or current speaking fee, to contextualize that, ranges from $20,000 to $40,000. And
That's not what your budget was.
No, our one book budget is under $6,000. So,
Right.
and that includes everything that we do. So, I think that illustrates how lucky we were to be able to latch on to this
Right.
a year and a half ago and be able to run with it.
Very exciting. Well, it is the One Book, One Community selection for this year, everyone. Binti, written by Nettie Okorafor, and she will be here on campus on October 22nd.
Yes, that's right.
And just don't lose that contract, because we're looking forward to it. But Danielle Sullivan, thanks for coming in and talking to me about this. Sounds like an
thank
exciting
you.
time.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's such a great program. We're glad to promote it. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Danielle Sullivan, my guest here on KSJE, talking about the One Book, One Community program here at San Juan College and in San Juan County. Back with more in just a moment, everyone. This is KSJE.
Evoking vision.